I don't know. I'm waiting for my boss to see if she doesn't come back to last week. She's gonna get rid of it.
Oh no,
You're very excited.
it's got to be like harassment or something.
No, she can and she will, and that's fine. I'm not.
I was just gonna say, wow, like these are.
I'm
the
not
small
gonna fight her
pleasures
for
in
it.
your life.
No, she's like,
Lord.
what you like the 3 things that you always do. Like,
We'll enjoy it.
Are we short?
Ready.
Put those up there just in case.
A lot. I did type it
Are they
out
gone?
like you.
should I
these
ask
two
a bunch
gone?
of questions?
No, there is still the
Oh,
finance
no,
committee.
finance.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think you will.
I was like, who's gonna pour me water tonight?
Here's my weird card.
Maybe you have to pour your
I
own.
do have to type it up.
What?
Yeah,
Do you know who I
I
am?
get a better sense of what's going on.
Speaking of having
It doesn't always
6
stick.
trustees in the room, at least 5 voting for the
I do too. I like writing and typing things. Then I know and I'll remember.
You don't have a vote under state law, but you need 5 or 6
Do you do this in your professional? Do you think
transactions. So if we have any vacations or
Oh yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to? You probably have to. You have to
kick it to
document
the
your
next meeting.
Okay.
That's right.
That's right.
We'll have
Hopefully everybody's
to.
beyond that because school is back in.
Right.
But you have to
We're
have
past
it
7.
in
Yes.
your files
Yeah,
at
yeah.
work. I know my sister's in healthcare. There's so
What
much
about?
documentation.
Yeah.
So do we do it at the first meeting, the workshop meeting, or?
Let's maybe just tonight figure out who's all going to be. Does anybody miss a meeting? 1 or 2 in September.
Okay.
And then we can,
Everything else is going good. You took the
preferably
do-
do it the second one because I got to order time.
No, she's out. Next weekend we go. I got someone.
I forget that.
Do you want me to ask that question, or?
Yeah, maybe just when we're done with the public hearing, maybe just say, is everybody going to be here at the
So
second?
he starts.
Okay.
He's probably be done like second week.
Okay.
These items. And actually, there's a typo in the number. For A should be 136, not 36,000.
Oh. I see. So do I read all this when we go over the public hearing? Discussion of right-of-way, vacation petitions, petition.
I mean, you can do it. Just say, we're going to open this. We're gonna
Okay.
discuss the petition filed by Derek Griffin on this. Petition of Mayor of-
Do I even have to say their names, or can I just say the property, the address?
I would do petitioner. I would
Okay.
just do the-
Okay.
Are these all the right-of-way people here, or you think?
Pardon me?
These all right-of-way people here?
No, the fire people.
Oh, okay.
Nancy, yeah. Because Richard Griffin is
Yeah.
being, yeah.
Okay. I just didn't know if it was. I didn't know if there was something bubbling up that I didn't know about. If there was a 5G or.
I hope not, I hope not.
Are the petitioners here? Do you recognize any of the petitioners, Griffin?
This is,
Recognize them?
the rest of them, I don't know them.
Weird.
These guys were hard at work, come on.
Oh, I guess so.
They weren't
I
just
don't know what
sitting
they're
around
doing.
growing
I don't know what
babies.
they're doing, right?
Right.
Saying that.
Everybody set, ready to start?
Hey, quick question for the. I forget. No, actually, I have an answer. Forget it.
Okay. Dan, you ready? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this combined workshop and special meeting of the Western Springs Board of Trustees on August 15th, 2022. Clerk Timick, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Rudolph.
Here.
Trustee Tyrrell.
Here.
Trustee Chen.
Here.
Trustee Fink.
Here.
Trustee John.
Here.
Trustee Lewis.
Here.
Thank you. To honor our nation's heroes and especially to honor the men and women in uniform who serve and protect our community, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Should I have Grace come up here? Director Turi, would you mind coming up to the podium, please? I'm sorry. I know you don't like to be the center of attention, but we cannot let this moment go by without a special recognition for all that you've done for the community and for Western Springs. Go down. Oh, I've got my.
Good thing I got dressed.
Oh, thank you.
But I go down. Yeah, you go ahead, I'm gonna come down.
Okay. So it's hard to believe that the time has come to say farewell to our colleague, Grace Turry. As you all know, Director Turry is retiring this month after a career spanning more than 29 years with the village. And this meeting marks the last board meeting Grace will attend, at least as Director of Finance. I expect to see you at our next meeting just as a participant, because after 29 years, I did a little bit of math, and it looks like you participated in approximately 700 board meetings over that length of time.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm sure that's not going to be an easy habit to break. And that's not even including committee meetings, resident meetings, professional meetings. So,
Park years,
pardon me?
and my Oak Park years.
And your Oak Park years too, right? So, it's a credit to you that you have managed to retain your sanity throughout all this time, and I can't imagine that you had any time to do any actual work within your department, and yet the financial department flourished under your leadership. So to put it another way, Grace joined the village as Director of Finance and Village Treasurer in May of 1993, the same year Bill Clinton was elected president. Fresh blueberries cost around 99 cents a pint, and that year women were finally permitted to wear pants on the congressional floor. So we've come a long way, baby. During Director Turry's exemplary tenure here at the village has received the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA, award for excellence in financial reporting for 27 consecutive years. This certificate recognizes those governments that go beyond the minimum reporting standards when preparing annual comprehensive financial reports, leading to more transparency and full disclosure in financial reporting to stakeholders and the public at large. That's all because of Grace. So the Board of Directors is grateful, the Board of Trustees is grateful to Director Turry for her long-standing service to the village. Director Turry has been an excellent steward of the village's resources and provided keen oversight of the village's expenditures throughout the years. Grace's commitment to the financial well-being of our village is noted and greatly appreciated. We will miss her calm and rational demeanor, her analytical mind, and her warm presence around Village Hall for years to come. On behalf of the board and the entire community, congratulations, Grace, on your well-earned retirement. We wish you all the best. Yes?
Well, I do want to thank the village, Alice Gallagher and the Board of Trustees. It's been a wonderful 29 years. It went by in the blink of an eye, so I can't even recall the 700 meetings. It's just I do want to thank Village Manager Bear for her support and all the prior managers I've worked with, all the prior boards. They were wonderful, and there were a lot of boards. So thank you. I appreciate all your support, and I couldn't do it without the finance department. They are wonderful people, and they're very, very helpful, and they just do a great job. They're self-propelled. Even if I were there or not there, they would do a great job. And I believe John will carry on, and there'll be a wonderful transition. You won't even know I'm gone. So, but thank you so much for all your support. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh my, it's beautiful. Oh, thank you very, very much.
Okay. returning back to our meeting, having read the agenda, does any trustee have an addition or deletion to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to the citizen comment portion of our meeting. This is when we open up the meeting to the public to address the board. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to address the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to the public hearing that's concerning the four proposed rights-of-way sales within the village. We will consider, well, first, I would like to call to order this public hearing. Clerk Timmett, can you please certify that everyone is still here and has not left?
Looks like everybody's still there.
Thank you. And has the public notice been published as required?
Proper public notice has been given, yes.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to the discussion of the right-of-way vacation petitions. We have a petition from petitioner John Griffin at 5144 Central Avenue property. Are we doing these individually or as a whole? Or?
Why don't we just do them as a whole?
Okay. And we have the petition from petitioner Michael Marinoff at 5200 Lawn Avenue. Petitioner Ed Rosenberg from 4241 Linden. And petitioner Sharon Giljum from 4243 Linden.
Why don't we have Matt Super run through, just in order, a quick summary of what each of the petitioner's vacation requests are and what the village is planning to, our response to
Yeah.
that petition.
Yeah, so I'll run
Thank
through
you.
there. I have an exhibit for each location for the petitioner. I'll go ahead and run through. If there's any questions, please let me know. The information in your packet in the public hearing notice gives it information about what the proposed square footage is. First one we have here is 5144 Central. They are proposing to buy the north 33 feet of the right-of-way. It's 5144 here. This orange area bounds the proposed area. The southern right-of-way portion has previously been sold in the past. This is going to be the remaining half of the right-of-way that's available. It does not appear that there's any encumbrances on this location. The storm sewer that we have running through is on the southern portion. Part of this right-of-way sale process, we'll review when we do the plat of vacation, the sidewalk configuration. Since there is a sidewalk running along the north side here, it'll likely be relocated within this area to adjoin or line up adjacent to if there's a sidewalk easement in the 5200 Central purchase that was made several years ago. The next one we have is from 5200 Lawn. Let me zoom in just a little bit on this one. So this purchase area is proposed 30 feet of right-of-way area. There's a little bit more going on this map, but this 5200 Lawn is purchasing from Mr. Marinoff from the northern edge of his property line north, just to the north edge of his existing driveway, which currently resides in the village right-of-way. There is a village storm sewer that exists in the purchase area, so we're anticipating, per the right-of-way policy, the single encumbrance price for that purchase. Then there'd be approximately 36, I'm sorry, not 36, because previously 12 feet was purchased to the north, so there's approximately 20 feet or so remaining to the north that would be unsold in this purchase location. And then finally we have 4241 Linden. This was actually also originally in tangent with 4245 Linden, and there's a minor typo in the packet here, from petitioner Sharon Giljum. She did contact us last week indicating that she did not wish to proceed forward with the right-of-way sale. There is a total of 16 feet available in this particular right-of-way. Currently, Mr. Rosenberg, the petition application that he submitted to date was for 13 feet, with Ms. Giljum to purchase the balance of the 3. There is no existing storm sewer or sidewalk easement in this particular case, since this is what used to be essentially an alley as opposed to a east-west roadway. And you can see to the east that there's no through street or through right-of-way that would be in play. I think Mr. Rosenberg's here this evening to briefly touch base on some thoughts he has regarding the balance of the remaining right-of-way in this location, since Ms. Giljum has indicated that she's no longer interested in purchasing the remaining 3 feet. But if there are any other questions on these 3 locations, I'd be happy to answer those.
I'd just like to point out that there's a typo in our right-of-way vacation petitions. Under A, the amount should be a total of $136,125, not $36,125. Thank you, Director Supert. Would any of the petitioners like to address the board regarding the right-of-way? Sure, please, Mr. Rosenberg, come on up, yeah. If you wouldn't mind using the microphone, that way the folks at home can hear you as well.
Haven't used a mic in a while. So I agreed to purchase 13 feet because the previous owner at 4145 had built a lot of landscaping, potentially hardscape and softscape, into the easement. So the 13 feet would limit the expense. However, I mean, I can buy the full 16 feet. I feel like it's going to cost me a lot more money to do that because I would have to put the fence through their beds, redo their beds. I would have to redo the 4145 drainage for their sump pump, which drains sort of in the middle. So there's a lot of additional expense that I was hoping to avoid that by having the 4145 purchase that. So if I purchase the rest, my hope would be that we could do a different encumbrance price than what has already been agreed upon to do the rest. I mean, I would leave it up to you to decide, but it is quite a bit additional expense for me just for that 3 feet. Not just the land purchase, but also the work that would have to be done.
Sure, that's understandable. And because this has changed and we no longer have your neighbor also participating, my recommendation would be to send it back to committee for further deliberation regarding your request, if that's all right. I know you've been very patient throughout this process, but this would be something that we could most likely resolve within next month.
Yeah, I mean, I would leave that to you if you wanted to wait till next month or if there's any decision you can make here. Either way.
Yeah.
I think it's been about a year so far, so,
I know.
you know.
Yeah, you've been very patient. I appreciate it. Your dog is probably grown and gone at this point, but.
Both of them have gotten to about a year and a half now almost, so
all
yes.
right. But we do appreciate your patience, and I think that's the proper thing to do because this has changed so dramatically, so.
Okay, thank you.
Are you saying that we wouldn't vote on the 13 feet tonight and wait on the whole
Correct.
thing?
Wait on the whole thing to determine exactly how much he would purchase and at what price.
Okay.
And that's better suited for committee where they can go more in depth.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Would any other petitioner like to address the board?
Madam, I'm here, I'm John Griffin, 5144 Central, Creative Consulting. I just wanted to introduce myself. The homeowners I will be building for here as well, they're current residents in Forest Hills. I built a house from about 7 years ago, so we're just moving a block away.
Oh, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none. Are there any questions or comments by the board members?
So we're only considering 4A and 4B.
Correct.
And tonight's consideration is just, do you want to move forward under these conditions and terms? If so, I'll order a title commitment and a plat of survey, or a plat of vacation for each of those transactions. If everything gets back, comes back to me in enough time, we'll have a vacation ordinance ready for the second meeting in September for you to take final action on it. And because it's kind of a unique statute, President doesn't vote in this, even to break a tie. It's a straight trustee vote. We have to have 5 of 6 trustees. So does anybody anticipate not being present at the second meeting in September for voting purposes?
Okay, good.
Yep.
Sorry, can I just ask a clarification on Mr. Berg?
Sure.
So his request, as indicated on here, was for 13 feet. But are we saying because it was also contingent on the purchase of the 3 feet by the other petitioner that we need to take another look?
Yes. Also because Mr. Rosenberg said that he's willing to purchase the additional 3 feet that the neighbor is no longer interested in, but would like a consideration on the price as well. So
Okay.
this is, I think, something suited for a committee.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments by the board? Any other questions or comments by the public? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Scott Shelbourne. I had a question about the 5144 easement.
So I live kind of adjacent to it. That sidewalk is our only access to sidewalks. So there's no sidewalks on Fair Elms. And it's kind of hard to explain on the map, but where the sidewalk currently is located is the only place to access it.
Okay.
So if it does move, which we're all in favor of this happening, but if it does move, there's a decent amount of work that needs to be done, I think, in the utility easement. There's, right now, if you go there, there's a guardrail, and there's some other stuff there. It's kind of hard to explain without seeing it. We just want to make sure, and there's a couple of us here, that truly is our only access to sidewalks.
Right.
And we just want to make sure we're not going to lose it.
Okay.
And that it's going to be taken care of appropriately. I mean, we don't care if it moves. We just want to make sure we can get to the sidewalks, because right now our kids, that's the only way we can get to school.
Yes, I can speak to that. So, I live in Forest Hills, I live on Woodland, these guys live in Woodland, so it's definitely where.
Could you use the microphone,
Sorry,
please?
I apologize. I actually live in Forest Hills. I live in Woodland, a block away from this location on 5025 Woodland. Raised my family there, use these easements all the time. So there's one, I'm currently building one at 5025, or, well, the one at 51st, between 50 and 51st. Yeah, and there's also a house going through all the way to Forest Hills. So I understand the importance of these. I understand why people need them. And we're definitely not going to do anything that would, be a disadvantage to you. If anything, is going to be positive. So we'll make sure that whatever goes in there, we'll work with Matt and his team. And our plan is to actually, of course, have one there. And it'd be an improvement, because right now it goes through and there's that guardrail. And once it gets to Fair Elm side, there's nothing there, right? I mean, you go around that barrier and you're in a forest as such. So definitely we want to, at least on our side, make it as good, if not better, I would expect.
We all think it's a positive. We just want to make sure that it doesn't dead end at their property line. And then we literally have no access.
Yeah, so if you go to 5200 Grand, there's a similar situation where you're coming through, you turn right and you go through, and then you go through. So it would be similar to the one there. I mean, yeah, that's how I expect it. And they've got guardrail as well. So I think we as we get closer, we can work with Matt and yourself and make sure that, at least on our side, but I do think on the Fair Elm side, there's probably a little bit of work that needs to be done. Just because it is cutting through.
Off of the property, which is why we were a little bit we just want to make sure that like I said, there's a couple of us here that live right around there.
Right.
That is our access. And it's more than just their property line. It may be the people next to their property line. And I don't know if they're going to participate. There's old brush and trees, and it's just making sure that sidewalk, if it went straight along that red line there, we would have no access to it.
Yeah, so the way I see it going, it would go straight along up until it gets to the end, and make a jog to connect what's ever on the other side. So I think as we get closer, we'll start working with Matt. But if you go to both the 5100 easement on Woodland and the 5200 easement on Grand, you'll kind of see examples how it works. And it's been successful so far.
And just to add to that a little bit, our policy, our right-of-way disposal policy, typically requires sidewalk easements or the relocation of any sidewalk that's existing. So clearly there is one on this east side. So there's plenty of sidewalk locations where we've worked in through those rear yard areas, and we'll double check as part of this process where the 5200 Central, that previous purchase likely has a sidewalk easement, at least partially already identified. So we try to line all those stuff in this process.
Fair Elms neighbors were concerned was that there's really no sidewalk in the Fair Elms house. So you could convince us that it would just dead end and then we're hopping over a guardrail.
Sure.
Snow and
Yeah, no, I understand completely. I mean, I know my kids went to Forest Hills. I know that's the way they get to Forest Hills by the sidewalks, and there's a crossing guard there on Central and 51st. So I understand completely.
So you're comfortable with that?
Yeah, if my name's on all my signs. It's my personal phone number. So if you have any questions, just please call. Like I said, I'm a resident, and make sure take care of things like that.
Great. Thank you. Anything else to add, Director Supert, or is that covered?
No, unless there's any additional questions from the board, I have no other.
From our perspective, how do we ensure that this happens the way that they were discussing?
So because our right-of-way policy requires the sidewalk easement, what we'll do is, as Attorney Drusik mentioned, once they order the plat of vacation and there's a survey that occurs, staff will work with Drusik's office to identify where the existing storm water utility or public utility easements may be, and then if we need to identify new easements, we'll identify that on that plat of vacation in the survey.
And then that will be part of the ordinance. Vacating the property, it'll reserve certain easements, sidewalk access
All
easement,
right.
public utility easement. It'll all be in the documents that get presented to you for final action in September.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board or the public? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to direct Village Attorney Jerusik to order title reports and plats of right-of-way vacation and to prepare right-of-way vacation ordinances for the right-of-way vacation petitioners as noted in 4A and 4B.
Yes, I'd have that motion to direct the village attorney to order title reports and plats of right-of-way vacation and to prepare right-of-way vacation ordinances for right-of-way vacation petitioners pursuant to, regarding 4A and 4B.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay. Clerk Timick, may we have any other final questions or comments? No, before we go to vote. So may we have the roll call vote, please?
Yes, President Gallagher. Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee John.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Rudolph.
Aye.
Trustee Terrell.
Aye.
Thank you. Now, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'd have a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the public hearing is closed. Thank you so much, everyone, for your attendance. Appreciate it. And you're welcome to stay to hear our comprehensive annual report. It's fascinating stuff.
Come on, it's really interesting.
Nice try.
Oh, I was wrong. Yeah, right. Sorry, Brian, we tried. So next up on the agenda is the report by Brian Lefevre regarding the 2021 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Brian, if you wouldn't mind. Welcome.
Thank you. Great, thanks. Good evening. On behalf of Sikich, I'd like to thank the village president and the board for inviting us to present some brief comments on the annual comprehensive financial report, which is the report resulting from the village's audit for your fiscal year ended December 31st, 2021. The annual comprehensive financial report has 3 sections: an introductory, a financial, and a statistical section. The financial section is required under Illinois compiled statutes for an audit of the village. What makes it a comprehensive report is the introductory and statistical section. As was noted in the presentation to Grace earlier, the award that the village received for its 2020 comprehensive annual financial report is within the introductory section of the report, and it's the award from the Government Finance Officers Association, the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, and as was noted, 27 years of receiving this award, the highest level of financial reporting within the local government industry. Not only should be the finance department should be commended, but also the village board for providing the support to staff to continue in this program. Within the financial section of the report is where we've given our opinion on the financial statements. In order for us to give an opinion on the financial statements, we're required to follow 2 sets of standards. The auditing standards, which tell us the types of procedures we need to perform, come from the AICPA, the American Institute for Certified Public Accountants. And then the second set of standards are the financial reporting standards, which come from the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, or GASB. GASB sets the rules for financial statements for local governments such as the village. We're pleased to present an unmodified opinion, and what that means is the financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, free of material misstatement. And this is the highest level of opinion that you can receive on your financial statements. In addition, the village also has requested that we give an individual fund opinion, meaning we're opining on each individual fund on the financial statements, which is the most comprehensive audit that you can have. Also within the independent auditor's report is reference to some additional work that was required this year for a compliance audit since you exceeded $500,000 in state and federal expenditures during the year. And that was a opinion that we gave, which was an unmodified opinion on your compliance with laws and regulations that could have a material impact on your financial statements. Finally, there's separate reports issued for each of the TIF districts where we issued opinions on your compliance with TIF laws and regulations, which was also an unmodified or clean opinion. So you should all be proud of that as well. In addition, in the financial section of the report, the management discussion and analysis is the executive summary of the report. This is prepared by the village. It gives explanations of your own financial statements, compares 2020 to 2021. I would encourage you all to read this. In addition, if you do have constituents that are looking for more information about financial information in the village, this is a very good document, along with your annual budget document for fiscal year 22. The last thing I would point out to you is there's a lot of good information related to your pension funding. So the village has 3 different pensions it participates in: the IMRF plan, the police pension plan, and the fire pension plan. What you'll find in the information related to the pension plans is that the village is contributing exactly what's being recommended by the actuaries. Which is one way to look at the funding. The police pension fund was just shy of what the actuary recommended, but that's just the timing of the property tax collections. The village levied exactly what was recommended by the actuary. The IMRF plan, when you take assets as a percentage of liabilities from the actuary, was over 101% funded, so very well-funded plan. The police pension plan up from 60% funded to 66% funded. Also good funding ratio, and the fire pension fund about flat at 75% funding. Overall, the returns on the police pension fund were good for 2021 at 8.32%. We'll see what happens in 2022, but as was discussed earlier at the Finance Committee, your investments in the police pension plan have moved to the consolidated fund as required by statute. So now there's one central investment fund of which the village police pension fund will have a share of the ownership of that overall fund. You'll still manage the pension fund locally with your 5-member pension board, but the investments themselves are now managed by that statewide fund. The statistical section of the report has some very good trend information. I encourage you to review that at your leisure. In conclusion, the audit went smoothly, and the village staff, led by Grace and John, for the audit were very professional and easy to work with. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Lefebvre? Well, thank you very much. We did kind of flesh this out in greater detail at the Finance Committee, which is appropriate, but thank you for presenting to the full board today, and appreciate your comments. And of course, always appreciate the Finance Department and its Director, Grace Turry, on an outstanding job in reporting our finances. Thank you both.
Thank you so much. And the one other comment we noted in the Finance Committee was upon the board's acceptance of the report, the village will have this report posted to its website.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out.
You're welcome.
Okay, so, is it under finance at all?
It's under finance.
I think it's under finance.
Finance report. That would be the motion now.
Do the motion now? Okay, so yes, Heidi, please.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2021, as prepared by the Sikich firm.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. May we have the roll call vote, please?
Vice President Gallagher, Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Bain.
Aye.
Trustee John.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Rudolph.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Rudolph, for catching that. Appreciate it. We'll now move on to the workshop portion of tonight's combined meeting. This is when we hear reports from our committees. The first report comes from the Chair of the Properties and Recreation Committee, Trustee Chen.
Okay, thank you, President Gallagher. The Properties and Recreation Committee met last week, and I'd like to report to the board on some of the items that we discussed and some recommendations. Item A on tonight's agenda, the 2022 Fair Elms manhole replacement. First and foremost, the committee reviewed this item and recommends to the board that we waive the competitive bidding process and approve the proposal for the collapsed sewer repair from Calumet City Plumbing. The proposal total cost is $14,410. There's a memo in your packet on this item, but Superintendent Breaky explained to us that they received a report in late June of a sinkhole at approximately 4710 Fair Elms. Upon investigation, it was determined that the manhole, which Trustee Fink and I learned is the actual tunnel-like structure below the manhole cover, which is made of brick, had collapsed on one side and needed to be rebuilt. They think the age of the manhole was approximately 90 years. So the location was secured with those big steel plates that they put on the road, and quotes for the replacement of the manhole were sought. Funds from this work are provided for, as we were told, in a budget item for small projects like this that may come up in the year. So that is that item. Item B is the 2022 installation of new fuel station. The committee reviewed this item, and we also recommend the board waive the competitive bidding process and award the contract to install the new fuel tank to Petroleum Technologies Equipment, Inc. The contract amount is $52,550. As a quick refresher, there was an incident that damaged part of the previous fuel tank system at the Public Works facility, and in turn, it was determined to replace the existing underground fuel tank per direction of the State Fire Marshal with a new above-ground fuel tank. This project has been ongoing. There's a temporary fuel tank in the interim, and the new fuel tank is arriving in September, and the dispenser system is already on staff. We were told that staff worked to secure quotes for the installation of the new tank. However, only one quote was submitted. Suppliers of the tanks all referred to Petroleum Technologies as a quality contractor who could handle this job. A second installer was identified, but they declined to bid. Funds for this will be provided partially through reimbursement from IRMA, because this was a claim situation, and through some restoration funding from the tollway agreement, and the remaining funds were budgeted in financial year 2022. So that is the update on that. Okay, item C, job order contracting Equalis Joint Purchasing Cooperative. The committee also reviewed, discussed, and moved to recommend the village board approve the Equalis Joint Purchasing Cooperative Agreement. This item, there's a big, a lot of documents in our packet about this, but it's a cooperative like others that the village is part of and that we've utilized to secure some other needed things in the village. This job order contracting joint purchase cooperative is looked at and could be beneficial and efficient for smaller construction and maintenance projects. So it's like a statewide bidding process. And they've already identified staff projects perhaps utilizing this cooperative, are a small concrete patching work that was part of another project, and perhaps the development of new material storage bins at the Public Works facility. So that's a little background on that. Item C, meter replacement program. We actually also discussed this in our committee, but the Finance Committee will provide a report on this program during their report. And item D, Urban Forestry Management website update. I'm going to turn it over to Director Super to discuss this exciting new portion of the village's website.
Yes, thank you. Let
Yes.
me just throw this up. So, as the board probably recalls, we passed a new urban forestry management plan earlier this year, which is kind of a comprehensive overhaul of our kind of urban forestry process, as well as our permitting process and how it ties into private development, et cetera. So the board approved the PDF, the document for that plan. One of the things I've spent over the past month or so is, and one of the goals for the Municipal Services Department has been to try to put more interactive or engaging content related to some of our projects, policies, documentation on the village website. What I've built is a through our GIS platform from Esri is basically a website that has all of the urban forestry management plan documentation, but it links in real time to all of our forestry data. So on the main page here, for example, I won't go through all of it, but I'll just kind of show a couple highlights. You have kind of the standard executive summary with a link to the PDF. And then there's interactive pages through each of the sections of the document that could be linked. For example, here, these trees and this average diameter, this is real-time stats that actually will update as our urban forestry inventory changes throughout time. There's some other interactive components of this as well. The application that we previously talked about even earlier this year back in February, where residents can look up the trees that are in their neighborhood, what's in front of their home, find out the size of the tree, that sort of thing, also embedded on this site. There's also a good amount of information on here that links back to the municipal code regarding our tree preservation areas, as well as the construction standards. One of the sections here with the tree inventory, again, just kind of showcasing some of the real-time data that it's able to provide, is the actual heights and distribution and the tree diameters of each of the major tree sections in town. This is, again, all real-time data that updates from our data that's up in ArcGIS Cloud, which is really kind of fascinating because as that develops, we don't have to manually update this stuff over time. It also has that heat map that we developed for the maple tree overrepresented species in the document. Again, this is nice because as you can zoom in, the data kind of updates on specific areas all on the map. So we're hoping to put this live on the Village website next week and then spread it out and kind of share the information.
That's excellent. Thank you, Director Super. This is exactly where I believe the board would like to see our website go, with this kind of interactive information that's pushed out to the residents, and they can see this information in real time. The fact that the GIS does most of the work is
Yeah, it does the big haul on that.
yeah, so that, you know, I can't really wrap my head around that, but I'm glad for you that it does. And again, congratulations, and thank you for taking the initiative on this. It's excellent.
Absolutely, thank you.
I couldn't agree more. I think this is such a part of the community and what people see and feel when they're here. And I just think this is terrific. I'm really looking forward to it being live and getting the word out about it. It's great.
Thank you.
Matt, can you show us where, do you know, like on the Village website, will it be under public?
Oh, excellent question. Yeah, so on the Village website, I can really briefly, there is, if you go to wsprings.com/forestry, there is a quick link that brings us, hopefully I didn't mistype it. Oh, I might have. Let me just go to the home page really quick. But under the Municipal Services Department is where all of our forestry information is. So we have a main section under forestry, and we will link this web URL through that. The existing web map is right in here now, but we'll add this main page to this area once we go live with it. Yes.
Hopefully when you like release it, maybe we can have a
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll highlight it, and then we can put a link from the front page as well. We have some quick links that are kind of nice, and we'll put a link to this in there, because I do think people will be interested in checking it out.
Oh, great.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, I think that's it. There was nothing substantive on any of the capital projects that we're following in our committee, so that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Chen. I did have a couple of questions. One with regard to the brick manhole. How many brick manholes do we have, and is that a concern?
I couldn't tell you the specific number off the top of my head, but we do have a significant number, especially portions of the town north of 47th Street, which are the older.
Right.
Similar to conversations we've had in the past about the age of our water mains. More likely than not, the sewer that's in the street is the same age as the water main because they were almost certainly put in at the same time. Okay. Not only do we have brick manholes, we also have some brick sewers in some of the larger sewers that we have in town, which are also they're great when they're great because they do last a long time, but when they do fail, they typically fail pretty catastrophically because of the brick is, the whole thing can kind of come in and collapse. So
Right.
We have done some sewer lining in the past for portions of brick sewer, but more often than not, when we do have one that needs replacement, we will actually schedule a full replacement and either put in concrete or PVC or something similar, depending on the size.
Do we know an average lifespan of these brick manholes?
They can certainly reach 100 years in age.
Okay.
The only issue with that is many of those older ones are now beginning to approach that age.
Okay.
Many of the brick ones, probably, I'm just going off the top of my head here, probably 1940 or sooner in most cases, so they are just aging pretty significantly.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Chen. Moving on to Public Works and Water, Trustee Fink.
Nothing to report this month.
Okay, thank you. Planning and Zoning,
All right,
Trustee Chen.
I have two things tonight. First is proposed development control ordinance amendments relating to debts owed. So there's a draft ordinance which is similar to recent code changes that have been approved by the board, which relate to debts owed to the village. So what this is the attached ordinance requires that no village approval, certificates, license, or permit is issued to a person who owes any fee, fine, or money to the village. And it restricts the right to apply for approvals if a debt is owed. So this has gone both to the Planning and Zoning Committee and the Planning Commission. They've reviewed it and recommend that we move forward with this change to the ordinance. Any questions?
Nope.
Very simple. And then we have the Field Park Fit Family 5K. So the Field Park PTO is the host of the Field Park Fit Family 5K. It's a lot of F's. On Saturday, September 17th, along Ellington Avenue, cul-de-sac, and other local streets. The event's been held every year since 2015, and it goes along with many of the other 5Ks that we have, throughout the year. So the Planning and Zoning Committee has reviewed this last month and recommend approval.
Okay, thank you. That's a repeat event.
Yep. Well, I wouldn't say it's 7 years because you never know during COVID if it happened. But
All right.
So.
Okay. Great. Is
And that's
that
it.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to Public Health and Safety, Trustee Lewis.
Thank you, President Gallagher. Just one item for information this evening. The fire department promoted Rich Griffith to lieutenant last month. Now Lieutenant Griffith is a longtime resident of Western Springs and a graduate of Lyons Township High School. He began his fire service career in 2012. He was officially sworn in as a fire lieutenant on July 14th, but he will be joining us September 12th at our village board meeting. So
Oh,
we'll
excellent.
Get a chance to congratulate him then. And that is all I have this evening.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Lewis. Moving on to the Finance Committee report, Trustee Rudolph.
Thank you, President Gallagher. We have a few ordinances and resolutions to bring to the board's attention, and I'm going to rely on some others for some help here with these. The first item will be an ordinance that amends the code that has to do with fees charged for ambulance services and emergency medical services. And I'm going to turn the floor over to Chief Kelly to tell us a bit about this particular topic.
Trustee Rudolph. This item was presented to the Finance Committee on June 27th and recommended to move forward for consideration at the board level. This is a recommendation to revise our ambulance transport fees that we charge. The fees were last adjusted in 2017, and at that time, the method used to set our fees was really a comparison of other communities and what they charge for ambulance transports. And we separated the fees into a level of service and whether a person was a resident or non-resident of the village to set those fees. Since that time, 2 years ago, we had the opportunity to participate in a program through the state of Illinois called the Ground Emergency Medical Transport Program. And this was a program designed to try to recoup more funding from the Medicaid reimbursement. Medicaid reimbursement is typically the lowest level of reimbursement that we get for an ambulance transport fee. So as part of that program, we were required to submit a cost report. And this cost report was a comprehensive report that detailed really what it really cost the village to provide ambulance service and transport for patients. It looked at facilities, it looked at our equipment, vehicles, personnel, to come up with a comprehensive report that ended up telling us per transport what it would cost the village. So we've utilized that GEMT, or Ground Emergency Medical Transport rate, with our Medicaid patients since 2019. And the recommendation is to utilize that rate since it is a more accurate way to determine what our costs are to provide transportation for ambulance calls for all of our patients, and not to have separation of level of service, and not to differentiate between resident and non-resident, at least in charging our fee. The 2022 cost report determined that our ambulance transport fee was $1,999 per transport. And that's what we've utilized for this year to charge any Medicaid patients to try to recoup any additional funding from the Medicaid system. So our recommendation is to utilize this rate for all of our transports. You have in your packet a memo that details that. You also have a ordinance revision that Attorney Jerusik put together to recognize that. What's included in the ordinance is also the policy that for residents, since we don't differentiate a rate between resident and non-resident anymore, that for a resident that we would accept what either Medicare or private insurance pays, and we wouldn't balance bill a resident of Western Springs. For a non-resident, we would balance bill for that entire amount. And for Medicaid and Medicare patients, right now we have to accept what they reimburse us for those types of transport. So this increase would only affect private pay and private insurance, but for village residents, we wouldn't be billing that leftover amount if there was any after an insurance payment. So that's basically the recommendation to go forward with this ambulance transport revision. And if anyone had any questions, I'd be certainly happy to try to answer those.
And this is what the Finance Committee is recommending, that we accept this recommendation.
No, I'd just like to comment. I think it's great that we're using a standard amount now going forward that will be just automatically updated. It's standardized across the nation, correct? Or
each year we're required to fill out a cost report that will indicate what the rate will be for the following year. So we will, as by ordinance, that rate will change based on the cost report, but won't need to come back to get changed every year through ordinance change.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I'd also like to emphasize that our residents' out-of-pocket will not change. There will be no out-of-pocket because whatever we bill and whatever we receive, that's it. We won't go back to the resident for the difference.
Correct.
Okay.
Is that the same with uninsured residents?
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Is that the same with uninsured residents?
Uninsured would be typically be a self-pay determined, and if there's no payment made on that on a resident, it would be typically written off by the billing company.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Great, thank you. Now we have another item that we'd also like Chief Kelly to discuss, and that is regarding our paramedic salaries and just the analysis that's recently been performed.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Rudolph. This item also went before the Finance Committee this evening before the board meeting, and it has to do with a recommendation to increase the starting salaries and also the existing salaries of our contractual firefighter paramedics. But just to give you some background, the village has been utilizing contractual firefighter paramedics since the mid-1990s. We had started a long-term relationship with Public Safety Services Incorporated, and they were recently acquired by Paramedic Services of Illinois a couple years ago, and we currently have a contract with Paramedic Services of Illinois to provide 6 firefighter paramedics to the village and to the fire department. Since 2019 and the start of the pandemic, we have seen a significant staffing issue, not only similar to many of the other businesses and corporations that have seen some staffing issues. We've seen that in emergency services as well. I included a chart in the memo that shows that the Illinois Department of Public Health in the last 2 years has had a significant decrease in the number of newly licensed paramedics in the state of Illinois. And that has affected the contractual services as well as the municipal and fire districts as well. So the recommendation is to increase the starting salary. Currently, our firefighter paramedics that are contracted to the village have a starting salary of $50,000 a year. The recommendation is to increase that to $65,000 a year and see that $15,000 increase also applied to the existing firefighter paramedics that are currently part of that contract. Many of the surrounding communities who utilize contract paramedics have made this change already. I think this will keep us competitive not only within the industry but also within the contract paramedic companies that are out there, all trying to kind of vie for and attract these personnel. Additionally, I would like to say that our contract firefighter personnel are really the backbone of the fire department. They're very critical to our operation. Honestly, we wouldn't be able to operate without their services to that level of care. So I think not only will it keep us competitive, but it also they've, over the past couple of years, have worked many extra hours and shifts in order to fill shortages that we've had over the past 2 years. So I think they're certainly deserving of this increase as well. Village administration conducted. This increase would fit within the salary range that we determined would be for the daytime firefighter position. So it is in line with what we had determined for that level of position as well. You'll have in your packet also the addendum to our current paramedic contract with Paramedic Services. We currently have a contract with them through 2022. That would be adjusted to note this increase in the salaries for our paramedics, and it would be retro until the end of this year with a recommended starting date of September 1st with that increase. And then we would also recommend that as part of that ordinance or part of that resolution that we would negotiate the contract for 2023 at the end of 2022 and rather than have a automatic renewal of the contract, which is currently how that contract is set up. So I'm sorry for the long-winded description, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those for you.
That is really helpful. Thank you. It's a really, as you say, critical part of the services that we provide here in the community and for the public safety. And I hope everybody has a chance to look at the data that you've provided and the analysis and kind of showing where we stood kind of locally. And I think taking that base salary up to $65,000 is right in line then to keep us competitive, as you say. Questions?
Are these paramedics, are they employees of Paramedic Services of Illinois?
Yes, they are.
All right, so
They also have an opportunity to be a paid-on-call member with our department as well. So many of them are also paid-on-call members of the fire department.
they also are paramedics. So we have a number of firemen that are just firefighters, and then there's how many? 6 paramedic
We
firefighters?
contract for 6 firefighter paramedics, yes.
And they go out on, I assume, most calls?
Every call.
Every call.
Every call.
All right.
If it's not an ambulance call, then they transfer over to the fire engine and they take the fire engine out for the initial response.
Not then, again, the Finance Committee is recommending approval of that resolution that extends that addendum to the 2020 agreement.
Thank you.
Our next item are, with respect to budget amendments, one of which deals or is related to what Chief Kelly just presented. That one is a budget amendment for $30,000, which would cover this increase in salaries that were just mentioned, effective as of September 1st through the end of the year. So $30,000 into the general fund, or is that correct, Grace? Into the general fund? Or where? Out of the general reserves, yes, to cover the $30,000. And then the second amendment is one that we've talked about in the past, the $980,000 to the BNSF fund to cover the overage flaggers that we've talked about in the past. That would also come out of reserve. So those are the two budget amendments that we are recommending this evening. Any questions on either of those? Okay. The next item, this is one I'm going to have Attorney Jerusik assist with this one. And this is the resolution or discussion about the resolution that would approve the appointment of John Mastandona as Treasurer and Director of Finance for the village as of August 29th of this year.
I can give a quick overview first. As we previously discussed with the village board, I'm recommending the appointment of John Mastandona to the position of Director of Finance effective Monday, August 29th, following the retirement of Director of Finance Grace Turry. John has served as the Assistant Director of Finance since May of 2019, and he brings a wealth of knowledge to the role. He's a CPA with a bachelor's degree in accounting and economics from Illinois Wesleyan, and is currently pursuing his master's in public administration from the Northern Illinois University. He's a member of the Government Finance Officers Association, the Illinois City and County Management Association, and the Illinois Government Finance Officers Association. He's also a member of the Illinois CPA Society. John has more than 10 years of progressively responsible financial experience, and the past 3 years he's worked very closely with Director Turry to prepare for this role. As part of the recommendation of appointing John to this position, the village board would need to approve that. And then the other piece of this resolution is the village treasurer role, and the village board appoints the village treasurer. So that is everything that you should have before you in that resolution. Attorney Jerusik, did I miss anything?
No, you're spot on.
Questions or comments? Very pleased with the process that has occurred over the last several years with John working very closely with Director Turry, and I have a lot of confidence in his ability to step into these very big shoes.
Thank you.
Speaking as one with the shoes.
Agreed. This is very smooth transition. This is succession planning, which is one of our strategic goals. So thank you very much for bringing John along. I do agree that as Assistant Director, he's done a phenomenal job, and I know that he will fit right in. And on behalf of the board, we're all looking forward to working with him. Yes.
All right. One more item. Trustee Chen referred to it, the water meter replacement program and lead service line replacement inventory program. So we, as a result of the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, State of Illinois received, I have in my notes, $742 million, and the village has access to approximately $1.9 million of those funds. They're pretty specific in terms of what the funds can be used for, but one of those is related to water. And this is one where the recommendation to the Finance Committee is that those be used for water meter replacement. This is something that the entire village would benefit from and be a part of. I think we've talked about this at various board meetings in the past, that our current meter system, they really are quite old, and they are not as accurate as we would all like them to be. There are newer systems out there that can do a much better job of flagging early for a homeowner if they have some kind of a leak. I think there are a lot of benefits to these kind of the new technologies that are out there. So what we are recommending is that we move ahead, and our first step would be that we have an RFP to look at the kinds of equipment that are out there that we could use that's in compliance with how the funds can be used, and again would improve our overall water metering and the benefits to the village and the residents. Director Turry, am I missing anything with that?
No, except in this process, we would also achieve the lead service water main, once it was inventory, that's very necessary for the improvement of that. So it's
about that.
Well,
So,
oh, go ahead.
Just the immediate process here would be the RFP for the equipment, right? And just the cost and timing is what we're,
And the inventory.
and the inventory.
Setting up the labor, and then we would incorporate the process of the project in the 2022 budget.
Okay.
And we anticipate that it could be turned around in 12 months if the inventory is available, or 18 months if we have a supply chain issue.
So
Yeah,
these funds come from this, what you say was AR?
ARPA.
Rescue Plan Act. Yep.
And we already received half of those funds and reviewed the second half, either later this month or early October. And
Oh.
those funds are, it's not a matching, the funds are ours, and there's no commitment to the timing. We just have to use money before 2024.
This will be enough to cover a lot of this?
That's what we hope.
Okay.
Does it have to be used by the end of 2024?
Or at least commit the funds, that's when we spend them, we'll commit them.
Okay.
So it's appealing that this is a village-wide project,
Correct.
I believe. And obviously, these water meters have reached their serviceable life, and so this is an expense that we will be facing sooner rather than later. The lead service inventory is also a bonus, but I think part of our discussion should be whether there are other village-wide or other, we know there's critical projects, but other projects that these ARPA funds could be expended on. So Manager Bear or I.
Yeah, that is certainly something that we've discussed as a staff. It's very difficult to pull a single project off the shelf that can be implemented village-wide. And we of course have identified some projects that in our infrastructure that need to be addressed. And I think we're trying to tackle some of those through some additional ideas for funding. We have the larger capital plan that Deputy Manager Bernanke and the rest of our staff are working on. So I think you will be faced with a long list of really good projects. And we want to acknowledge that. This project came up because it really is kind of a customer service function, and it hits every household in our community equally. There are quite a number of very old meters, and I can tell you every year we go through a number of conversations with residents who've had leaks, and it's very frustrating that they can't identify those leaks until they get that very large water bill. Those are the kinds of things we would love to avoid. Every year that goes by, these meters are aging. It's a project that will be very high on our list, even when we get the capital plan results from our consultant. And so that's why we're bringing it to you as our recommendation. It's going to take some time to put any project of this magnitude together, and we think if we know this is the direction to go, we think we want to get started right away, get the RFP written, and that's why it's before you now. It will, as Director Turi said, it will get put into the budget for next year. So we're not allocating the funds today, but we will get the process started, and we anticipate that could take some time.
Manager Bear, can I add just one comment on that? So two things that also kind of make this project, I think, ideally suited for this potential funds is that a project like this doesn't require significant amounts of engineering and lead time to design it. If you look at typically one of our road projects, for example, that you're looking at about 6 to 8 months of design time, and then you have the follow-up bidding and construction process following that. This sort of process, because we're doing RFP, there's no engineering design or architectural design that needs to occur. We know what the standards are for the meters. We would find a contractor and a company to do those, and then basically would roll those out into the community in a fairly efficient process. I think it's also important to state exactly how old our meters are. The last time we did a comprehensive meter replacement was 1996. The American Water Works Association recommends meters are replaced every 20 years. So we're well past due for our meter replacement program in terms of just the efficiency and the standards that are set forth for those.
Those are excellent points. I think that age is really important. We've discussed this before at many finance committee meetings and just meetings in the past, and we will have to expend this money at some point. This is something that it's already overdue. And the point too about how this doesn't require the extensive engineering that nearly any other project would, it seems to fits in with the time frame that these funds have to be at least marked for,
The
so.
other thing to consider is that this project, if it's not funded by ARPA money, will require a rate increase, a water rate increase, there's no way around it.
Right.
We would have to either issue bonds or some kind of notes so we can get the proceeds in hand and then proceed. So this would, now that's not to say there won't be a water rate increase for other reasons, but for this particular project, we would forestall an increase until another project pops up. That would be possible.
It's a good point.
One last thing, the technology on these water meters has changed dramatically since we last did this kind of work. It's gone through generations since 1996. So what we would be looking for is a whole new technology in terms of point-to-point reading and things like that. So it operationally will be light years ahead of what we've had before.
Who gets the water meters?
Everybody who doesn't have this type of, do you want to explain how it works?
The majority of the meters that are in town are the older style. Currently, we use Census meters. Now,
Use what?
Census is the brand that we
Census,
currently use.
okay.
Now, if you've had a tear down in the past 5 to 10 years, you more likely than not have one of the newer style meters. We haven't finalized through the RFP, but some of our initial conversations with some of the providers and distributors indicate that we don't necessarily need to replace those newer meters because they are capable of taking on the wireless technology or the kind of updated reading process that some of the other platforms would allow for. So we would know more information about that once we figure out what the RFP looks like and then what sort of vendor we might be going with. But the majority, I would say probably at least 75% or more of those meters in town are the older style 1996 ones.
Wouldn't this be a massive project, replacing 75% of the meters?
It is, yes.
We can fit it into this ARPA grant?
That's the goal, yeah. So we're basing our information on the rough prices based on other communities. LaGrange, for example, maybe about 5 years ago replaced their entire system distribution-wise. And there's many communities in the Chicagoland area who've done this process routinely. It's typically done about every 20 years for most communities.
Even those homes that have a newer meter, though, will benefit from this because of the upgraded technology that Matt mentioned. The wireless reading allows for someone to have an app on their phone and be able to detect that they're having an issue with their water. It helps us to detect it right away as well. So there's definitely a benefit even if you have a new meter.
We currently have to read the older meters.
That's right.
In person.
That's
Somebody
right.
has to
We have
walk
water meter
house to
readers that
house.
walk around with a device and it reads every meter.
And that's been hard to staff that.
Very hard.
That also presents, issues when we do have problems with a meter, either leaking or just not reading properly. Because we're reading on a bi-monthly basis, you have 6 to 8 week period, if not longer, where we just don't know that there's a problem. Whereas with the new technology, it's part of a network that we read that information. So if there's a problem with a meter, we would know immediately. Typically, they can read the data as fast as every 5 minutes or maybe once an hour. And we can follow up with residents very quickly, especially, for example, if somebody is out of their home for an extended period in the winter, and if there's a leak somewhere in their home, we can try and get in touch with them before you might have significant damage in your basement, something like that.
The system can actually notify someone if there's higher than normal usage, and that's such a great benefit.
Absolutely.
We've had people who've left hoses on for days at a time, and it gets very, very expensive very quickly. So we think this would be a huge benefit, that new technology.
Come into the backyards and just swap them out?
Typically, the meter's in your basement. So the way most of the other communities have done this is not something the Public Works would do in-house. They contract, because you need to have a licensed plumber do this work. And we don't have a licensed plumber on staff. So there are plumbing firms who have staff that specialize in this. These are larger plumbing firms. It's not Supert & Sons plumbing firm that does this. So, but they have staff that would send notices out and schedule those appointments and do those swap outs. The meter replacement itself is actually fairly fast, maybe 30, as fast as 30 minutes, maybe at most a couple hours.
I know we have and we'll have a multitude of items that are on our eventual list. And as you say, Manager this would be on the list and very high on the list.
Absolutely.
It may not be the snazziest project, but it's really, really critical. I think great explanations here that we can all see the benefits to the entire community. And just even just the aging alone is something this, again, we have to replace them. So I think this is a creative and important way to use these funds.
Agreed.
Thank
you.
My only other item is other, and I just want to again echo and thank Director Turi for everything that she has done. It certainly made my job as chair of the Finance Committee much easier. It's pretty hard to understand all of the fund accounting and just how it all works. And Director Turi, over the years with me, has made it just much easier to comprehend, and just your knowledge and your integrity and your candor. I think you've just been just such an excellent director, and I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to work with you. So. Thank you. And with that, that completes my report.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Rudolph. Moving on to the General Government Committee. Do you have a report this evening?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. In that case, we'll move on to the special meeting portion of tonight's agenda. First, an explanation of the omnibus voting procedure. The Illinois state statutes allow a municipality to collectively vote on a group of ordinances, resolutions, and other motions, such as awards of contracts, appointments, etc. This is known as an omnibus vote. All the items contained on the omnibus vote list have been previously discussed by the President and Board of Trustees on at least one occasion, and often on several occasions. By placing them on the omnibus vote list, a single vote may be taken to approve them. A trustee may remove any item from the list and have it discussed and voted on separately prior to the omnibus vote. Is there such a request this evening? Hearing none, Trustee Terrell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd move that the following ordinances, resolutions, and motions as contained on the meeting agenda for August 15th, 2022 be adopted and/or approved under an omnibus vote. Agenda item number 1, approval of the meeting minutes of July 11th, 2022 as read. Agenda item number 2, ordinance 22-3093, amending Title 10, Development Control Ordinance of the Western Springs Municipal Code to add a new Chapter 13, general provisions applicable to this title, and a new Section 10-13-1, eligibility for village approvals, certificates, licenses, and permits if a debt is owed to the village. Agenda item number 3, ordinance 22-3094, approving budget amendments and transfers over $10,000 to the fiscal year 2022 operating budget in the general fund. Agenda item number 4, ordinance 22-3095, amending the Western Springs Municipal Code, Title I, Administration, Chapter 9, Administrative Code, Article F, Fire and Inspectional Services Group, Section 2, Fire Suppression and Emergency Medical Services relative to fees charged for ambulance services and emergency medical services. Agenda item number 5, Resolution 22-2685, authorizing and approving the execution of a first addendum to the 2020 agreement to provide paramedic personnel between the Village of Western Springs and Paramedic Services of Illinois, Incorporated, for calendar year 2021, with renewal options for the years 2022, 2023, and 2024. Agenda item number 6, Resolution 22-2686, to approve the appointment of John Massandota as Treasurer and Director of Finance for the Village of Western Springs effective August 29th, 2022. Agenda item number 7, Resolution 22-2687, approving the waiver of the competitive bid process for purposes of approving and authorizing the execution of a master intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement between the Village of Western Springs and Equalis Group. Agenda item number 8, motion to approve staff's recommendation to issue a request for proposal, RFP, for the Water Meter Replacement Program using American Rescue Plan Act, that's ARPA, funds as a funding source and to put expenditure in the 2023 budget. Agenda item number 9. Number 9. Motion to approve a temporary use permit for the Field Park 5K Run Walk, 1 mile fun run, and Kids Dashes at 2022 event. Agenda item number 10. Motion to approve a release, hold harmless, and indemnification agreement for temporary use permit for the Field Park 5K Run Walk, 1 mile fun run, and Kids Dashes for the 2022 event. Agenda item number 11, motion to waive the competitive bidding process in lieu of solicitation of proposal and award a contract to Calumet City Plumbing of Calumet City, Illinois for the 2022 Fair Elms manhole replacement project at a total cost of $14,410. Agenda item number 12, motion to waive the competitive bidding process in lieu of solicitation of proposal and award a contract to Bidder Petroleum Technologies of Lyons, Illinois for the 2022 fuel tank station installation project at a total cost of $52,550.
Thank you, Trustee Terrell. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion, comments? Hearing none. Clerk Timick, may we have the roll call vote, please?
Yes, President Gallagher. Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee John.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Rudolph.
Aye.
Trustee Terrell.
Aye.
President Gallagher.
Aye.
All the motions contained on the agenda for August 15th, 2022 are passed.
Thank you. We'll move on now to the reports. First report is the monthly financial report for June. Back to you, Trustee Rudolph.
Thank you, President Gallagher. For our financial reports for June, the general fund, so just a few things to bring to your attention per usual. General fund continues to maintain a surplus. The LGDF, the Local Governmental Distributive Fund, as of June 30th, the distributions are about 36% higher than last year. And as of June 30th, we've received 77% of our budgeted amount, so that is positive. Also, our sales taxes continue to exceed projections with more than 23% increase year over year. Of note here, previously mentioned, the county has noted an issue with the second half installments this year. They're saying that they will be delayed by at least 4 months now. The county is offering bridge loans, but Western Springs won't qualify for those bridge loans. So consequently, we continue to monitor our cash very closely. As noted at the moment, we are in good position, but it is a delay and something that obviously we'll be keeping close track of. The Water and Sewer Fund, the consumption build for March 15th through May 15th was about 7.8% lower than the same period last year. The Police Pension Fund, as noted during our earlier presentation, the state has now consolidated the pension funds, and so ours was completed. That was completed on June 24th, and assets with a market value of $14.374 million were transferred. We're in a bit of this transition period, so we don't have the new way we're going to get the reported information from them, so we don't have that at this time, but expect to be getting the new reports within the next couple of months, I believe, Director Turry. Okay. And with that, nothing further. Any other questions about the financials?
Can I ask, I forget, when do we usually get the distribution from the county, and when are we? Okay, right, and like something in the late summer?
Yeah, obviously, comes on the 30th, but now they're telling us they're about 4 months late, so we probably won't see it till December, maybe January.
Did we have a delay on the last one, or is this the first
No,
time?
this is the first time in a while that we've been so late.
Thank you.
I know.
Okay.
It affects a lot of communities.
Of course. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's good bridge loans are being offered, but. With that, then I would make a motion to accept the June financial reports as presented.
I'll second the motion.
All right, thank you. Clerk Timick, may we have the roll call vote, please?
Yes, President Gallagher. Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee John.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Rudolph.
Aye.
Trustee Terrell.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. For my report, I just wanted to congratulate Village Manager Bear on receiving the prestigious Service Award at the Illinois City County Management Association Conference this summer. The award recognized Manager Bear's service as a founding member of the Legacy Project. The Legacy Project supports women in public service by providing career-building models to develop leadership skills and networking opportunities with other professional women in government. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the Legacy Project. Thank you for your initiative and for your foresight in getting that project up and running. And congratulations to you, Manager Bear.
Thank you.
And then at your place are 2 flyers. One is for the IML 109th Annual Conference that is this September 15th to 17th at the Hilton Chicago. This is, you can sign up for 1 day or all 3 days. This is an opportunity to meet other trustees across the state. And there's often very engaging topics of consideration. So you can find all of the topics online when you go to their website. And please, if you have an opportunity, do that. And if anything interests you, please let Deputy Clerk Haskey know, and she can make the arrangements to sign you up for the conference. And then the other flyer at your place is the annual dinner for the West Central Municipal Conference. This is our Council of Government, our regional council, and the annual dinner is Friday, September 23rd at the Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont. If you're available, I would like you to join Terry and me and your spouses, of course, for the reception, dinner, and program. It's always a fun event, and it would be nice to have you there. And that concludes my report. Manager Bear, do you have a report?
I do. I just have a couple things, and I will try to be brief. As you're aware, we are experiencing some changes in our leadership staff this month, including those we've discussed earlier this evening in our finance department. I also want to echo a thank you to Director Grace Turry for her many years of dedicated and exceptional service. Grace's leadership, expertise, and friendship have been a gift to us all. We hope to see her often in the future and congratulate her on her retirement. Assistant Director of Finance John Mastandona will be officially sworn in as Director of Finance and Village Treasurer on August 29th. I look forward to working with John in his new role. Deputy Chief Ashley Nees-Goda was sworn into her new role as Deputy Chief of Law Enforcement earlier this month, and she is already off to a great start, so very pleased to have her working with Chief Buds in that capacity. Finally, I would like to recognize Director of Community Development, Marty Scott. Marty has notified us that he has accepted another position and is moving on to a new opportunity at the end of the month. Marty has provided his professional expertise to the village for more than 16 years and should be commended and recognized. I want to thank Marty for leading us in economic development, planning, zoning, building construction, and more. He has served as staff liaison to the Plan Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Planning and Zoning Committee. And Marty has represented the village to the Western Springs Business Association for many years. Marty's creativity and problem solving and his ability to bring people together are a big part of his exceptional character. We wish Marty all the best in his future endeavors, and we will certainly miss working with him each day. Thank you, Marty.
Marty, this is bittersweet. Of course, we're sorry to see you go, but so happy for you and this exciting opportunity that you are undertaking. I believe even though each one of the directors has a challenging job, yours is probably one of the most challenging, and it's certainly very forward-facing. And so appreciate your calm demeanor, and you have always been respectful, even with people who haven't really deserved respect, and appreciate you always keeping the persona of the village in mind with your dealings with everyone across the business community, the residents, the staff, the board. So really going to miss you, but we all wish you the best. Yeah.
Thank you.
and I'm not going to. I guarantee you. This isn't going to be one of those blubbery little speeches. It's only 16 years, and it's, but it's the longest I've ever spent anywhere. And the people at this table and Mike, come on now, are great people. And I was thinking earlier today, and we had a directors meeting in here, that the village is run the way it should be, and the policy is set the way it should be. And it starts with Ellen for us day to day, and it starts with you twice a month, and then beyond that, because people don't know how much time you spend, obviously, and get disrespected sometimes, but hopefully pat on the back more often when you're at Mariano's or elsewhere. So these people are awesome. The day-to-day, they're fantastic. They're your work family, you know, so you get to know them personally, and they also face, you know, quite a bit of internal, external pressure, and do it with professionalism that is top-notch. I know how other communities are run in the Chicago area, and there's 250, 300, whatever suburbs, and I know for a fact this is definitely one of the best run communities, bar none. So thank you, it's been an honor, and I will not be a stranger. I will frequent Casey's and the hardware store in Kirschbaum's, and my daughter won't let me not bring her to BB's, so I will stay in touch and see you around for sure.
Great. Looking forward to that.
Yeah,
Good
thanks.
luck.
Thanks.
I just have one more item. We have a quick update on the tollway project from Matt Supert.
I'll be brief. I'll just hit the highlights on this. So there's quite a bit of information. I believe everybody has a copy of this on their dais in front of you. So just a couple updates. The tollway provided some information, kind of their look ahead through the remainder of this year. If you've noticed, the work on 294 itself has begun. They are working on the shoulder areas right now, beginning the asphalt work. They are anticipating that the actual main line corridor will begin sometime later this fall, but they don't have an exact start date on that yet. The Hinsdale Oasis demolition is in progress right now. The BNSF Bridge, that project is substantially complete. They're really wrapping that up almost entirely at this point. There's some final signage and minor punch list items on the BNSF corridor that's happening. The big next component of that is going to be the landscaping. That's intended to take place this fall up and along the BNSF, again, corridor, with the goal to be completed by the end of this year. And then the final item on there is the Ped Bridge going over 47th Street. That's ongoing right now. They're anticipating to have a lot of that work substantially complete with the approaches and a lot of the concrete and stone work completed through this fall as well. Depending on weather and some of the other conditions, we'll see about how to kind of complete substantial completion and then restoration probably in the spring.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Jurusik, do you have a report this evening?
Just very brief. Grace, 20-plus years, Marty, 16-plus years. It's been wonderful working with both of you. Just an excellent professional working relationship, and I value that. Good luck to you, both of you, in the next chapter. And then I would encourage, the board to attend the West Central Municipal Conference dinner to help install the incoming vice president of the board of directors of the West Central Municipal Conference, sitting to my left.
Thank you.
No further comments.
Thank you. Okay, so next we have the recess to the closed meeting. May I have a motion to recess to closed meeting?
Yes, I would have a motion to, excuse me a second here. Recess to close meeting for the purpose of discussion of the setting of a price for sale or lease of property owned by the village pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statute 120/2C6 and probable and imminent litigation pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statute 120/2C11.
Thank you. May I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay. Clerk Timick, may I have a roll call vote on that, please?
Yes, President Gallagher. Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Rudolph.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in closed session this evening. We are not going to reconvene. There will be no action taken in closed session and no action taken in open session after the closed session. We will just adjourn from there. And so, good evening and good night.